Hello, welcome to this video on urbanization and climate degradation. Let's start with a definition. Urbanization is the concentration of people into cities. I'd like to show you a short little video about the world's busiest pedestrian crossing. And this is in Tokyo, Japan. Tokyo is the largest city in the world, followed by Delhi, India, Shanghai, China, São Paulo, Brazil, and Mexico City, Mexico. Throughout most of human history, cities did not exist. Cities only really started to develop about 10,000 years ago. Urbanization refers to the concentration of people into cities. On the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the urban population of the US over the last 200 plus years. And if you were to go back to the late 1700s, you can see that a very small percent, about 5% of all Americans were living in cities. Whereas today, in the year 2020, it's about 83%. So the trend has definitely been that more and more Americans have and continue to move into urban settings. Speaking of urban settings, here are some additional definitions. Metropolis refers to a large city that socially and economically dominates an urban area. A megalopolis refers to a vast urban region containing a number of cities and their surrounding suburbs. There are several megalopolises in the US, including the greater New York area, and Florida also has one. And this is a picture that you can see of Florida taken from space, from the International Space Station, and you can see all of the large cities, including Jacksonville in the Northeast. You have Miami, West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale on the Southeast coast. You've got Sarasota, Fort Myers, Tampa, and of course you've got Central Florida with Orlando. Some average differences between rural and urban populations. You can see that people that live in cities tend to be on average a little younger than people that live in rural areas. People in rural areas, being more traditional, are more likely to be married than people living in cities. Where were you born? More people tend to stay where they were born, living in rural areas, whereas if you live in a city, you're more likely to move around. People in cities tend to be more highly educated than people living in rural areas. And people that live in urban areas are more likely to have internet access than people living in rural areas. And people that live in cities have overall higher incomes than people that live in rural areas. Urban ecology is a study of the link between the physical and social dimensions of cities. Ecology is the study of the interaction of living organisms and the natural environment. Which brings us to what I believe to be one of the most significant social problems that we face, and that is global climate change. Global climate change is defined as a long-term shift in global or regional climate patterns. Global climate change is often called global warming, which is the rise in Earth's average temperature due to an increasing concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Global climate change is a better way of looking at this issue because it doesn't necessarily focus on just the heating of the earth. There may be certain areas of the earth that are cooling, or weather may be changing very rapidly in a regional part of the country, which all basically comes down to research clearly shows that we humans are heating up our Earth. According to NOAA and NASA, 2019 was the second hottest year on record, right behind the year 2016. And here is that research that I'm talking about. This is one of many studies that have been done globally showing that global climate change, global warming, is in fact real. Before I leave, I want to mention to you that research shows that about 97% of global climate scientists support the notion of global climate change. Humans are causing global warming. And if we don't do something, we will eventually come to a point where the damage is irreversible. And your children and your children's children and their children will end up in a very, very bad situation, not to mention the earth itself.